How are we doing? We're in the paint booth again today, and what have we got? We've got all the rear suspension bits, we've got, well, basically everything for the rear end, and a few bits to the front, and we're going to be talking through all the different paints that you can use, basically to avoid powder coat, because we don't like powder coat here. So I'll take you in the booth, I'll show you where we're up to, and then we'll go from there. Alright, boom! Right, so things are moving really quickly. The fairies have come in last night and done all this. Martin likes to work late, fair enough. All my bits are sandblasted, drive shaft, all the big washers, subframe, diff. This comes out pretty nice, to be honest. Prop, all the different hangers. So we're going to get it in zinc primer now. We're not powder coating, we don't like powder coat, it fractures too easily. And then we'll get it in a zinc primer, and then we'll decide what colour we're going to do them all. Brilliant. Paint wise, colour wise, well first of all what we're going to do with the diff is, because it's got all new seals and everything for it, I'm probably going to paint it first, then strip it down, and then if it needs any repainting, because it's easy to paint it now with all the old seals in, so we don't get any paint inside. I'm guessing all the running gear I'm probably going to do black, so that's the prop, the diff, the drive shafts. I'll probably go green on the end of the shafts to make them look a bit more like proper shafts, a bit more factory. And then we'll pick the colour for all the subframe and the suspension arms. And you'll have to wait and see for that one. Mainly because I haven't decided yet. But it's going to be nothing in your face. It's going to be something classy. Maybe a fluorescent pink or orange or something. Hey! Right, excuse the state of the booth. I've been doing loads of painting in here. So we have rear diff. There we go, that's a bit better. Rear diff precariously hanging from a chain, balanced on an old baby cot crib holder, as you do, you know. You've got to make do. We've got the front anti-roll bar. That's all in primer. The rear, we've got a white line one, so we're painting this one silver to match. We have got the prop, and we have got the backing plates for the rear brakes. Right, so let's talk about the paints. And first of all, I'll let you know that these have all been sandblasted first. Okay, sandblasted, cleaned, and then sprayed with an epoxy primer, but a very special epoxy primer. And let's go and let's talk about it. Right, so primers. I believe with suspension components, and this is just what I believe, and this is the way I do things. I believe with suspension components, bits that are under the car, you need to be using something that's very hard wearing and something that's used to be in that environment. So whereas normal with bodywork, we would use a standard automotive epoxy primer, which is a 2 parts and is chemically resistant and whatever. Wet on wet, that means you can put it on, you can let it dry, and then you can scuff it up and paint it, or you can wait for it to flash off, semi-dry, and then go straight over with other paints. But what we tend to use is, I haven't actually got it here, we use, on suspension components, a very, very zinc-rich epoxy primer, more of an industrial primer, which is used commonly at industrial sites where there's exterior pipes, or where there's a lot of heavy weather, bridges, that kind of thing. So we use a really rich epoxy, which is full of zinc. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you how full of zinc it is. Hang on. Right, so let's go. This is a brand new, unopened tin, 1 litre of your normal epoxy primer, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a little test now. Right, so let's reset the scale. So 1 litre of your standard paint, and I'll be honest, it feels just like a litre of regular paint. Okay, so let's put it on, and that is basically 1.6, 1.7 kilos. Okay, now this is half full. I'm not going to open it to show you, but believe me, this is half full. So that is full, and that is 1.67 kilos. This is half full, and it is nearly 1.9 kilos. So that full is nearly 4 kilos, and that full is 1.6. So that's double the weight. And it's hard to justify that until you actually pick them up and you realise that's still heavier than that, and it's half full. And that is because it is an epoxy primer, but it's absolutely full of zinc. So rich in zinc, which has anti-corrosive properties and sticks like the proverbial to a blanket. It's a really good primer. We've been using it for years. We haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. So epoxy prime, and then on the black parts we've actually got an epoxy based satin black, so we're putting epoxy on top of epoxy. For the suspension components we're actually using a synthetic enamel after epoxy. I prefer to use a synthetic enamel. It's oil based. It is only a 1-pack, so you don't put a hardener with it, but what it does is it kind of stays a bit soft permanently, so it's a lot less likely to chip. It's never going to fracture, and if you have any contact with anything you can just touch it in. With powder coats, it's all well and good, and if you've got a good powder coater, he'll do an excellent job. But what we found is that it can fracture. You can't see that it's fractured, and then it just starts peeling off. We've seen it with powder coaters, with anti-roll bars, we've seen it with suspension components, we've seen it with wheels. Yeah, we use paints. We use the best quality paints we can. That's what we stand by, and that's what we use. So what I'm going to do is going to mix up some epoxy black to go on the diff and the prop, etc. And then after that, I'm going to mix up a little bit of silver. I'm going to spray the anti-roll bar. Right, so we're in the booth. I have got my epoxy black to go over my epoxy primer. I haven't used this before, so let's see how it shoots. Obviously, I can only video so much because I'm doing all this through my phone because my little GoPro thing is absolutely rubbish. So, do it all from my phone. The main thing is the finished results. I know not only have you got a booth at home, but this could be done in your garage as long as you wear safety equipment. Alright? Try again. So first coat is a bit more, you don't go for a full finish on the first coat, so we're just going to get some paint on so it adheres to the surface a little bit better, and then the second coat is where we're going to go full wet to get the finished look. Okay, mask back on. It's a bit thick actually. Okay, right. Change the angle of the gun. Like that. Up and down. Right, so obviously I didn't get much of the footage because the paint wasn't spraying very well, so I had to adjust the mixture. So here's the diff. It's hard to see with these lights, but It's all painted nice. Now, I've painted the diff, but I've still got to replace the seals, all 3 oil seals, and we're still going to take the back off. It's just a lot easier to paint it now and then retouch up any bits afterwards. Yeah, and it's being hung like this because these are leaking. So I've tilted it up this way so all the oil's down here while it paints, because obviously I can't paint while there's oil pissing out of it. Okay, here's the brake backing plates. These all look very nice. They look nice satin black. It's on there nice and thick as well. And there we go, and we've got the prop, which is all good, all good. And I did the anti-roll bar just in silver, like I said, because the rear one is a white line. There's no need to change the front, because look how thick that is. I've never seen a roll bar that thick. What is it, about 27 mil, 30 mil something? I think 27. So that's going to match. We've got the drive shaft's already done, so the drive shaft, all the running gear, the prop is black, all the suspension gear is grey, both anti-roll bars are silver, and any drop links are all brand new, and all the bushes are red. It's going to look lovely. I'm getting excited. That's a nice finish, isn't it? It's a little bit of like a hammered finish, because I wanted it to look like powder coat if I could. There's no point spending hours and hours and hours on it. Okay. So here we go, a little bit of the infamous GoPro, which is strapped to my forehead, and we are in the booth and we're going to be painting the suspension components, and we're going to be painting them in the oil-based enamel, which is a high gloss grey. I chose this colour basically because I had it in already, and this is the colour we do the majority of our suspension components in if customers don't want it black. I think the grey looks really nice. So we've hung all these bits as best we can. They're all already been sprayed with the zinc rich epoxy, and what we're going to do is we're going to get in all the nooks and crannies first. We're not going to go too heavy, and we're going to go a little bit wetter on the second and the third coats. The wetter you go, the more high gloss finish you get. Okay, so we're just smashing this out. It's very time consuming doing lots of little bits like this, but it's worth it in the end. And boom, look at that, all painted. I didn't want to get too much of the footage of painting because it can get a bit boring after a while, but you can see the finish, and you know, I'm really impressed, to be honest. It's very durable. We've got about 3 coats on there. The last coat we went quite heavy, so basically there's a couple of little points on the subframe or wherever where we've got a couple of little tiny runs. That means you've got it on really nice and heavy. There's the hubs there, we did those while we were at it, and all the big washers for the subframe. So that's all the bits painted, and they're looking really nice, aren't they? As you can see, you get out what you put in. If you put the effort in, you take your time, you get the finish that you desire. And the difficult thing is, most of these bits are never going to be seen by anyone, apart from when you get up on a ramp. But you know they're protected, you know they've been sandblasted, epoxied and painted, and once all the bushes are fitted, we are also going to cavity wax all the subframe and anywhere we can as well. But to keep everything looking super nice, I'm probably going to use a liner guard on it. The little run there at the bottom, can you see? Made up with that. Going to use a liner guard on it, which is like an oil-based spray, preservative spray, because I want it protected, but I want it to look nice as well. So, boom, there we go. Job's a good one. There we go. I think it's all painted. It took me a few days to get it all done. Obviously that included the blasting as well, but definitely worth it. And I can do it all in-house. Like we say, is if you want to get yours powder coated, you can just send them off and you can get them done. You get them done in any colour. It is a bit more work, the paint inside of it, but it's a shame for me to pay someone else to do it. And also, like I said, is I prefer paint to powder coat, but each to their own. So take it easy, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.